What's going on, Beamer fans? Welcome back to Beamer Review. For today's video, we're going to be going over 10 different features and tricks that I use in my BMW that you probably don't in yours. If this is your first time on this YouTube channel, Beamer Review, what we do here is teach you everything there is to know about BMWs. We go over every single thing about these vehicles in terms of tricks, hidden features, and we offer you plenty of tips to learn everything there is to know. If you want to learn everything about your BMW, do yourself a favor, subscribe to this channel because we put out content every single week. Before we get started, we do have some really cool BMW key fob covers. If you have one of the newer BMW key fobs that look like this, do yourself a favor and make sure you get a key fob cover for your key because they are not cheap. They are very, very expensive. And so the links for these are going to be right down below. Also, if you have a new BMW, be sure to get yourself a set of all-season mats. The links for those are also going to be right down below. So definitely check both of those things out at the end of the video. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So for number one, this is going to be something that I just discovered about my vehicle, and I personally think that this is going to be probably one of the best tricks to know about, and that is going to be the fact that you can use your watch to precondition your vehicle, and you can also use it to lock and unlock the vehicle and check the status of it. Now, what I did on my Apple Watch was I did get the BMW app right down there on the lower left side. Now, if I were to click on it, you're going to see the functions of the app pop up right over here. There are going to be some other options that you see right over here, and if you scroll over, you can even see how much gas you have. But most importantly, these little functions that you see here are going to be very, very useful to you. Now here you can check to see if the vehicle is already unlocked or locked, but more importantly, you can precondition your vehicle, which is going to be this first function that you see way up here that represents a fan. If you have a BMW that could do remote start, you can do it straight from the watch right over here. Or if you have a vehicle that could do preconditioning where it can just turn on the fans, you can also use that through here to cool down your vehicle. So what you want to do is once you click on the first one, you're going to be greeted to this screen right down here. And then if you were to scroll all the way down, you're going to see this option right over here where it says confirm and start. Now, if I were to push on that, it would go ahead and do remote start for my vehicle. And the best part about this is that I always have my watch on me at all times. And that remote start or preconditioning you can do from your watch can be done anywhere because it is all done remotely. So that is going to be a major function that I use a lot, because a lot of times I may not always have my key, or sometimes my phone may not be in my pocket or at reach. But my watch is always going to be here. So I do use my watch a lot to remote start my vehicle or precondition it. The other really cool thing, if you don't have an Apple Watch, that's completely fine, or if you don't have any smartwatch. So right here we have my phone right over here on the left side. If you can also set up your BMW app to be a widget located right over here on the left side. So even if you don't have a smartwatch, all you have to do is just swipe over to the left just like this, and then you can go ahead and use those same functions that you saw on my watch. Here you can remote start the vehicle, you can lock, unlock, and then this way you don't have to go digging through your app to do all those functions. You can just swipe over and then you have all your functions located right over here. For number two, it is going to be the use of voice commands. Now this one is pretty common, but here's a couple commands that I use a lot every single time I get into my vehicle. So if you don't already know, I use Waze every single time. One of the things about the new BMWs that's not really fun is that if you were to push on the map button, which is located right down here, it only brings up the BMW maps. It brings up the BMW maps as if no other map is open or active. So if you wanted to use Waze or Google Maps, you'd have to go digging through to get to Waze. So here's one of the best things that I do in my car as soon as I get into it, and that is going to be the fact that I could just tell my best friend, which I'm about to introduce to you, just to get to Waze, and it's all going to be done hands-free. And again, this is a pretty common thing, but not many people use it. And that is going to be the fact that I could just tell Siri to go to Waze. Hey Siri, go to Waze. Now I had to do a quick little B-roll on that because I am using my phone to record. But yes, if you were to just use Hey Siri, you can just tell it to go to Waze, and then that will keep you out of trouble, because of course having Waze on in the background helps a lot because of the fact that Waze will let you know if there's potholes or any speed traps. You can also hold this guy down and then you would get Siri to also bring up the voice command and then just tell it to go to Waze. The other option which I found is that if you have a new BMW, you're going to have this new operating system with the curved display that looks like this. If you have that, you're going to see this cool little white line here. Drag that down, you can put Waze right over here on the end. Now, the reason why I put Waze at the end is because I can easily use a controller here to get to Waze. Now, what I mean by that is if I'm going to be using my car to be driving, I'm not going to be able to really focus on the controller and get up to Waze while I'm driving at the same time. So The best part about having Waze or your favorite app to be that last shortcut that we saw before is that all you would have to do is click on this up and then just rotate the knob all the way to the right, and then it's going to bring you to Waze, and then just click down and then you would have Waze or your favorite app pop up just like that. So then that way you don't have to use the controller, take your eyes off the road, and then see, oh, which app do I want to use. The best part about having it at the last one is that you can just go like that and then just rotate all the way to the right, and it's always going to bring you to that last shortcut that you saw right there, and then that goes to Waze. But again, voice command is easier, so definitely use one of the two. Next up, not many people are using Auto H. All BMWs have this Auto H function, and I do think a lot of people are not using it as much as they should. There are two scenarios where I would use Auto H the most. First off and foremost is going to be through a drive-through. If you don't already know, I love coffee. There's always going to be a coffee in my car at all times inside my cup holder. Now, whenever I'm going through a drive-through, you're always going to be in a situation where you have to keep your foot on the brake the whole time. Any situations where you have to keep your foot on the brake the whole time, I always activate Auto H. And then by doing that, it allows me to just take my foot off the brake and then just rest it. So it's great to use for not only going uphill so that your car doesn't roll back, but also for drive-through situations whenever you're going through a drive-through, or if you were in the city where they have lots and lots of traffic lights, or even in stop and go traffic where you have to keep your foot on the brake the whole time. Just activate that Auto H function, and then you can rest your foot and not have to worry about keeping your foot on the brake the whole time. Almost every vehicle since 2019 has this cool function called Comfort Access. So if you were to go into your menu here, search for this function called Comfort Access. So if I search for that, you're gonna see it pop up on the right side right over here, Comfort Access. Now, you have two different options here: unlock when approaching and lock when walking away. A lot of people have both of these activated, but I personally have found that it just makes sense to just do this bottom one where it says lock when walking away, because if you have it set to unlock whenever you're approaching the vehicle, if you have a car that's parked in the garage and then you're going through your garage and then you're walking past your vehicle, it's going to unlock and lock every single time, and it gets really, really annoying. As it is, whenever you walk up to the vehicle, you do have to pull on the door handle anyway, so it just makes sense, for me at least, to just have this guy off and this one on. So then that way it doesn't get too annoying with all the constant beeping whenever the vehicle is parked in the garage, or if you just happen to walk past your vehicle for whatever reason, quite often. This next one is a really good one because, again, for this one, if you have one of the newer BMWs, in the last generation BMWs which had iDrive 7, they used to have this really cool function called climate control rules. Now, they did kind of get rid of that function, but what they replaced that with was something almost as good. So if you have the new BMWs, the curved display that you see here, iDrive 8, 8.5, 9, you're gonna see your climate menu located right over here. If you go into that, you're gonna go into individual settings. If you go into individual settings, you're gonna click on this guy right over here where it says driver, and then you're gonna be greeted with this screen right over here. So this is almost similar to that climate control rules function that everybody loved. What this can do is automatically turn on your heated seats, your cooling seats, and even your heated steering wheel. So it gives you all the options here. Now, the way that this guy works is it takes into account the cabin temperature or the temperature that the vehicle is already at on the inside, and it will adjust your climate controls on your ventilated seats, your heated seats, and even your steering wheel depending on how hot or cold it is inside the cabin of the vehicle. So it's really, really convenient. Right now it is summertime, so I do have my heated seat off completely, and I do have on my cooling seats, which is going to be right down here, set to very high. So now whenever I get into my car, and if the car senses that it needs to work pretty hard to cool down the seat, or if it just needs to cool down the car in general, it will automatically activate the cooling seat that you see right down there. And then whenever it comes wintertime, I will be turning that off, and I will be turning on the heated steering wheel all the way up, and then the heated seats all the way up as well. And then whenever I get into my car, I never have to worry about clicking on that heated seat button or cooling seat button. It'll just do it all by itself. So definitely take advantage of that. That is probably one of the things that I think that a lot of people are not using, and I do think that you would greatly benefit by setting that up. This next one's a really good one. I think that everyone should also do this, but if we were to go into Apple CarPlay, if you have an Android Auto, this may be a little bit different for you, but I do think that Android may also have the same function as well. But the majority of us, we do have CarPlay. So what's cool about CarPlay, shout out to Chick-fil-A right down there, I love you. But what's really cool about CarPlay is that many people do not know that you can actually rearrange these apps, but it is really weird on how that's done. You would think that you'd go into settings here and then you see the function to rearrange the apps inside here, but it's actually not in here. You can do some cool things like change the wallpaper or the appearance, so definitely look into that whenever you're free. But you can rearrange these apps. So what you want to do is you want to go into settings and then you want to search for Apple CarPlay. Once you're in there, you're going to go to this screen here, and then you're going to select your vehicle that it is connected to. And then once you get to that point, you want to click on customize. And then here, this is really cool. You can go in here and then rearrange all your apps, customize them, pick out the ones you want to set in the front or the ones you want to set far, far away. You can delete some, you can add some. So definitely do this for your vehicle too, because if you have some favorite CarPlay apps that you want to be shown on the front screen, this is where you'd be doing that. So definitely make sure you do that. Super convenient, very useful, something you'd use every single day. So take advantage of it. So we have a heads-up display located right over here. Now, I love the heads-up display in some situations, and then in other situations I do not. So what's really cool is that you can use your voice command to control that, whether you want that on or off. The command for that is going to be turn off heads-up display.
I have deactivated the head-up display.
You can see that the heads-up display is gone. I'm just going to do that one more time because the video was a little blurry. Turn on the heads-up display.
I have activated the head-up display.
You can see that I just used my BMW voice command to control that heads-up display being on or off. Now, I usually keep it on during the day, but at nighttime it can get very, very distracting. So at nighttime, I'll use my voice command to just deactivate that. Keep in mind, if you also have your shortcuts menu located here, you can also program that on and off switch to be one of these. So that also may be an option that you want to use. But I do use the voice command to control that, whether I want that on or off. The next one is going to be a little bit silly, but some of you may be able to relate. I spend a lot of time in my car. A lot of times whenever I get home, I just like to just relax in my car and just have my own space to myself and just scroll on my phone and whatnot. So what I do is I have seat number 2 to be set up as my reclining, relaxing position. So of course we have our seating assignment 1 to be our normal driving position. But say for example, if I just wanted to be sitting in my seat, just reclining, relaxing, and just resting, I could have seat number 2 to be set up to be a more reclining position where I could just sit back, relax, and not have to worry about the world. Whenever you make adjustments to your seat, all you have to do is just override your previous setting. So for this, because I just made adjustments to my seat, I'm going to press set and then 2. So now seat number 2 is going to be my relaxed position. And then once I'm done relaxing and then have to go back in to talk to my wife, I don't have a wife, I'm just kidding. But then I just want to press 1 and then just set that back to where it was before. You have to hold it down the whole time, and then before you know it, you're going to be back in your position here. This button right over here is going to be something that I use a lot. It's the board computer button, or the BC button located right over here. You may or may not have this button depending on which BMW you have. You may have a button located right over here which looks like a gear icon. The function that I use with BC is just the fact that I could click it down once, and then it brings up my trip computer that lets me know my total miles, my trip computer located right over here. And this right here where it says values for this trip, you can adjust. If I were to click on BC, then it brings up some more options such as refuel. So every time you refuel your gas, this trip computer right over here will reset back to 0, or your miles since your factory, since the vehicle was born. This one right here is the one that I want to mention, values since individual. So every month, whenever it strikes a new month, I reset the values by holding this button down, and then that 343 that you see right there would reset down to 0. The reason why I do that is because I like to keep track of how many miles I drive every single month to make sure that I'm not driving too much, or I'm not driving it enough. So my values since individual, I have it set to reset on my own, a manual reset for every single month. So then that way it helps me keep track of how many miles I'm driving every single month. This next one is gonna blow a lot of minds because many BMWs have been doing this for a while now, but not many people are aware of the double click you can do on the sunroof. So of course, if you click it back one hard time, you can open up the glass, right? But let me just close that real quick and I'll show you a cool little trick that many people are not aware of. Now, if you wanted to open the sunshade and the glass, you can do that by just double clicking this back 2 times. So let me go ahead and demonstrate this and blow your mind, because this is going to be something you may use a lot. So if I were to double click this, it's going to open both the sunshade and the glass. Ready? Here we go. So I just double clicked that. Now both the shade and the glass are both going back at the same time. And that just saves you a nice few seconds of waiting for that shade to go back before you think you can go ahead and push back the glass. So yes, it works the same way. If you were to close it, double click it twice forward, 1, 2, you can see that the glass went back, and then you can see that the shade just went back as well. These are going to be the 10 tips and tricks that I use that you may not use. So definitely feel free to use the same tricks that I just showed you all. Use it every single day because they will benefit you quite a bit. If you all had any questions, write those down below. Definitely make sure you check out the key fob covers and the floor mats right down below as well. You would be supporting the channel. If you all had any questions, write those down below. I will do my best to get back to every single one. So ask away. Thank you all for watching the whole video. Again, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to this channel. Again, we put out content every single week now. Have a great day. I will see you all for the next one.